Welcome back to Plan in Private Practice. It's me, Antoinette, the psychotherapist in private practice, here to help you on your journey to open up your private practice if you are ready or if it's just something that's a future goal of yours. Today, I want to discuss how do we go about picking a name for our private practice. This is where experience comes into place. Just a little bit about me. I was working in the field for about 11 years after getting my master's degree. I worked in a number of different arenas. I did everything from domestic violence, drug and alcohol counseling, DDD, which would be developmental disabilities, long-term care, psychiatric work at Greystone Hospital. I also worked in a group home with elderly long-term psychiatric people. I worked in hospice. I did all those things before going into psychotherapy. And all of those experiences allowed me to develop the type of therapist that I wanted to be. It also allowed me to develop the sort of confidence that you would need in private practice, because in private practice, you don't really have a supervisor to go to work things out. Hopefully along the way, you'll have developed some close relationships with some colleagues that are more experienced than you are. So you can always consult with them when you have a case that kind of makes you go, So that's always helpful. But having those experiences will definitely help you evolve into the type of therapist that you want to be. You don't have to be the type of therapist that you see on television. You don't have to be the type of therapist or like a supervisor that you really admire, like they're great, but you have to become your own therapist, so to speak, just like we all have to grow into become our own person as we become adults. So that's why I really do encourage people to get as much experience as possible. Try fields that you would never consider, just to get a feel for what you do and you do not like, and to get just experience so you can grow, you can develop, you can pick up some skills that you can't pick up in a book. They teach us well in graduate school, but they can't teach us everything. A lot of things we have to learn while we're on the job. So that experience will help you create a name that is unique to you and that's expressive of who you want to be as a therapist and what you would like to provide to your community, your audience, whoever it is that you choose to serve. The other thing I want to discuss today is office space. My office space is very simple. It's kind of small. It's not a closet, but it is small. I have enough room for a sofa, a chair for myself, a desk, an ottoman, as you can see, that I use for storage. I have myself a little tea station. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I have a little tea station. So it's plenty of space for all of what I need because I'm a minimalist naturally. That's just how I function. So that's something to consider. And when you have to get an office space, consider the location, the accessibility. You know, if someone has a handicap, or maybe if someone had an injury and they can't do stairs, you want to try to be in a place where there's at least an elevator or a ramp so people can get to you no matter what the situation is in their life. You make it ease. There is ease of accessibility. Excuse me for that. The other thing to consider is you don't have to spend a lot of money on decor. You don't have to buy fancy, expensive furniture and desk and wall decoration. Because to be honest, when your clients are coming to see you, they're coming because they have something that they need help with. And they're barely going to glance around your office and make a judgment on what your office looks like and wonder, oh, where did you get that piece of furniture? You can go to the Goodwill, you can go to these furniture consignment shops that may be in your area and pick up some nice looking furniture. Of course, check it out. You want to make sure it looks nice. You don't want it to look like you got it off of someone's curbside. But that just goes to show you don't have to spend a lot of money if you decide to go straight for the office setting. You can find a nice small office close to your area, or maybe in like shopping malls or plazas where there's a lot of office spaces, or in some place that's maybe unique and unusual. Even you can catch a different audience. But it's something to think about. You don't have to fit into a mold. You don't have to do what you think everyone else is doing. You have to do what's right for you, what works for you, and what's best for you. So there's that. The other piece I'm going to go into is what's called EMRs, electronic medical records. I'm sure by now everyone is doing EMR. I don't care what position you're in. If you're in the healthcare industry, you're doing EMRs. Paperwork is for onboarding, getting people admitted, but past that, you have to do everything in electronic medical records. I've worked in probably 5 different systems since it became mandatory. I don't even remember what year it was when it became mandatory for mental health professionals to work in EMRs, but I worked in a lot of them. So I would recommend going online, doing a Google search for, mental health records or psychotherapy notes. There's so many different ones like Therapy Pulse, Therapy Notes, Theranost, and those are the 3 that comes right off the top of my head, but I know there are a lot of others. A lot of them you can get 30 days of free. You can try it out, see what the system looks like, see if the system has all of the elements you would need in your practice, say for a place for your clients to file their paperwork. You can create a client portal for your clients that want to go virtual, so you don't ever see them, but they have to sign paperwork, so you can set up a portal. They fill everything out online and it gets uploaded to the system automatically. You want to make sure it's HIPAA compliant. You want to make sure that you have HIPAA compliant paperwork. If you have to create your own paperwork, I created my own paperwork. So after you've decided which system you're going to go into, either Therapy Pulse or Therapy Notes or Theranost, whichever one you've decided, also be sure to check their rates. See the difference in rates for each one of the systems. You get a discounted rate when you're a solo practice, but of course, as you grow, the rate is going to increase. I find that most of the rates are feasible. They're within range. Nothing's too crazy. They have so many features, like they can do your billing for you. So pretty much all you would have to do is make sure your client's information is in there, make sure notes are in there, make sure the insurance information is in there, and the system will tell you that, oh, there's a note that needs to be completed before you can submit this patient's bill, which I think is a great feature to have. It comes in handy. It helps you stay on top of things, because once you get busy, and you will get busy, it becomes a little bit more challenging to keep up with everyone's notes being completed and things like that. But that's something that historically, as clinicians in the mental health field, we always experience the pressure of getting paperwork done. But the beauty of being in your own private practice is that you create the paperwork, you control the paperwork, so it doesn't have to be these lengthy forms that have to be filled out every time you see someone. You can structure your paperwork to be only what you need to have to properly take care of this client, remember quickly when it's time for the next session, which you want to address, and so on and so forth. The other parts of paperwork is the stuff that you would need to have created. You can upload it to your practice, your library, for whatever EMR you decide to work with. This is the stuff that you'll have on hand when you have clients coming into the office and you want to have them fill out paperwork. I'm a little old-fashioned. I still have people fill out paperwork. I get carbon copy paper made through a company called Lighthouse Printing online. They're fairly reasonable. I get about 50 carbon copies. I upload my forms that I created on Microsoft Word to their system, and they create it for me. So it's very professional. It makes you look very good, just saying. You can just tear it apart, give them their copy. You keep your copy. You don't have to photocopy anything. So I always love the carbon copy thing. And, sometimes people just like having a hard copy of something and not always having to go into the computer and log into something to figure out what was it that I signed. So I would say definitely consider that when considering doing all electronic or half electronic and half paper. I guess that would be considered like a hybrid system. So you'll need notice of privacy practice, a form that's an admission or authorization to treat, and you'll need a separate consent form for telemedicine. So if someone's doing telemedicine, it'll be one consent form, but if they're doing in-person office visits, it'll be a different type of a consent form. So that's 2 separate forms. There's also the release of medical records and information. There's also the permission to bill insurance companies, payment agreement or of their copay and deductible, or if they're paying 100% private, then you add that in there. So your payment agreement, you want to create it to where there's open spaces to where you can change it as necessary. This way you're not recreating the form every time you have someone with a different situation. And lastly, there is your cancellation policy form. Again, there are some of those forms where you can make them a duplicate so that they sign off on a white sheet. You just give them the yellow copy for themselves. What I did was I did my best to condense a lot of these features onto one form so that I didn't have a separate form for each one of these parameters. Again, in the mental health field, there's tons of onboarding paperwork, and there's always a separate form for one little thing with one paragraph, and it's just, why can't that be condensed? Well, that's what I did. I condensed the release of medical records along with, getting permission to bill your insurance company, along with consent to authorization for treat, along with who your power of attorney is or who your legal guardian representative is, your emergency contact, along with copay. So there's ways you can create your own paperwork to condense certain things to fit on one form. And so they're signing off one time and consenting to all these different things rather than have 10 separate forms for them to sign off on the same thing. It makes life simpler if you can have a lot of categories covered on one sheet. They sign one sheet of paper and here you go. You're ready to get started rather than spending 30 minutes just on paperwork alone. So I encourage you to look into these types of paperwork that I mentioned. The notice of privacy practices, you can get that online either from the NASW or like the government HIPAA compliant website. It's kind of like preset all of the legal jargon that none of us read, because none of us read it when we go to our own doctors to have them do an assessment on us or a routine medical exam. We just sign away and don't read it. But those forms are out there for you to print out or download into your system so you have it. You could just create your logo, create your logo and add it to the top of the form. So when you're onboarding any of your clients, all of the paperwork is uniform with your logo and your information on it. So I would say definitely do that. So when you figure out your name, you work on your logo, and you work on your paperwork. Get all of those things in place so when you're ready to take your first client, you feel good, you feel confident, you feel empowered about your private practice. Anything else, please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and share this video and my other videos. And I would love to continue to help you. If you have anything in particular that you wanted me to cover, just let me know. And for now, I think that is all. I think I've covered all I wanted to cover. Thank you for listening and supporting. And remember, keep planning for private practice.